Welcome back, NextGen Nation. So good to see all you again. I hope you enjoyed the afternoon keynotes. It was a great lunchtime session, and I'm really excited for this session, Top 10 Actions Towards Financial Wellness. My name is Doug Mashkuri. I'm the Vice President and General Manager of GovLoop, and I'm so excited to be part of this session today. So let's talk about it a little bit. Managing your day-to-day finances while making steady progress towards goals shouldn't be an ordeal. It could be stressful, it could be hard, but today we have a financial wellness expert that's going to help us navigate this, give us some great tips and ideas and strategies on how to build a successful financial tomorrow. Before I do that, obviously, I'm sure you're used to this. We're going to have to go through some housekeeping items. So here we go. 1, please tweet if you're learning something interesting or want to share information. Use the hashtag NextGenGov to share what you're learning. If you have questions during today's sessions, we have a Q&A console. There's a tab on your console. You can enter your question into there and we will answer it towards the end. There's also a group chat where you can drop some comments. We might be prompting you later to put some things in the chat. You can also chat with other attendees. If you have any technical difficulties, use the Q&A console and enter your issue, and my colleague Kelly will help you. We have a resources tab on the console that has a lot of really good information, including today's slide deck. So please access that to download information. And lastly, all this information will be available on demand. So if you, for some reason, have to leave early, there will be an archived version for you to view. Additionally, we are offering 1 CPE during this session. So you have to do 3 things to get your CPE credit. 1, attend the live session, stay for the duration. 2, there'll be 3 poll questions throughout today's presentation. They'll pop up in your slide window. All you need to do is listen to the question, answer it, click submit. Lastly, there's an evaluation form that you need to fill out at the conclusion. That evaluation form is in the resource module and also in the main resource center. So if you can't get it off the module, you can go to the resource center and find it there. So with all those housekeeping items out of the way, please join me in welcoming Dan Eck. Dan is a managing partner with EY Personal Finance. He is a seasoned financial planner, expert, and all other good things we're going to learn over the next couple minutes. So Dan, the floor is yours and welcome aboard.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Doug. I appreciate that. And great to be here. Hopefully you're all doing well in the afternoon. Had a nice lunch and not too sleepy from that. We'll do our best to keep your interest. I've been with EY my entire career and our EY Personal Finance practice. We are a group of financial planners and financial educators that provide objective financial planning to large populations of members and employees. So we have large companies, large state and local governments, and other entities that hire us and pay our fee to provide free financial planning to their employees or their members. Again, we don't sell anything in terms of products. We don't manage assets. We just get to help people every day with personal financial issues, their concerns, and building a better financial future. And we're going to share a little bit of that knowledge and experience here with you today. I also want to talk about WAEPA, which is short for the Worldwide Assurance for Employees of Public Agencies, who is a sponsor of this event today and this session in particular, and a group that we work with, and I'll talk about that in a moment. If you've not heard of WAEPA, and if you are a federal civilian worker, this will be very important. WAEPA is a nonprofit provider of group term life insurance, and they do that specifically for federal civilian employees. They've been around since 1946. They've been around 80 years. And they have 46,000 members across all levels and agencies of the federal government, providing access to insurance for more than 100,000 federal employees, as well as their dependents over those years. And the connection with our group here at EY and WAEPA. WAEPA is one of those organizations that has hired us to provide our services, financial planning, to their members at no cost. So if you are a federal civilian employee and you're interested in, one, exploring perhaps some lower cost group term life insurance for you and your family and want to join WAEPA, there's a very, very low one-time membership fee to join WAEPA. And as an added bonus, you would have access to free financial planning through the EY Navigate service, which is the organization that I represent here at EY. So with those commercials, let's jump right in. Our topic today is top 10 financial actions. And as I give you a minute to, I'm sure, very excitedly read all of our disclaimers, I do want to mention that it's really just one ask that I have for all of you over the next hour. We'll go till about 2:45 Eastern today. And we're going to share some tips and tricks and action steps that I'll suggest to all of you. And I think what you'll find is that you'll see some things and hear some things that you've not done or not thought about or have not looked at in a while that may be an action item for you to address in the near term, tonight, this weekend, next week, but that everybody's action items and things they need to focus on will be a little bit different. So the only ask I have of all of you is for the next hour, sit back, relax, listen, ask questions. There is a Q&A box where you can ask questions, but also grab a piece of paper or the notepad on your phone or computer and write the word personal action plan at the top. And as we go through the content, jot down anything that you need to do over that you hear about today over the next couple of days, couple of weeks as a personal action plan financially. Because studies show this time and again, you'll not be surprised by this, you are more likely to take action and to do some of the things that we talk about here today if you write them down. And then carry that list with you. Put it on your top of your computer desktop or on your desk at home or on the refrigerator or on your car seat, somewhere where you're going to see it and be reminded of those action steps that during the next hour you decided were very important for you to address, and then make sure you do those. Do the easiest one first and build that momentum and build that personal action plan. Now, before we get into the top 10, let's just recognize that we all spend time managing our personal finances, and over the years, we've probably all built habits and routines that, at least at the time, felt like the right thing to do. Maybe you've not reconsidered or readdressed those habits or routines for a long time. And I do think periodically it makes sense to challenge those routines, those standard practices that we do every day with our finances, to make sure that they really are the best approaches and the most efficient ways to manage our money. Now, to illustrate the importance of periodically challenging the way we do things and our habits and routines, I'm going to ask you a question next, and I'm not going to show the question quite yet because I don't want you to look it up, but it may illustrate for some of you that the way you think about things, the way you've always done things, who you think is on that beneficiary form that you haven't looked at in 15 years, maybe it's time to challenge those things, and maybe they aren't the right ways to do things. So let me throw a question at you. This is just for fun, but it might give you that. I love that one. Let's stop shopping on some of those online shopping sites. Thanks for that question already. Let me show you a question. I'm going to give you a minute to answer it. I'm going to ask you to use the attendee chat, because then everyone can see the responses and we'll get an idea where people fall on this question. And if you have a incorrect answer, it may indicate it's time to challenge some other habits and routines in your life. Okay, with all of that set up, here's the question. It's really, really simple, I promise. In the chat, let us know what color you believe a yield sign is. And I'll give you two choices to make it easier. It's either yellow and black or red and white. You choose red and white or yellow and black on the color of a yield sign today in America, and put that in the attendee chat box and see what you think. Kelly is the first one in with her very emphatic response. Others, drop your responses in. Please don't look it up online. You've seen these before. So what color is a yield sign? And go with your gut, not what everyone else says. And we have both answers in that chat, and they're coming in fast and furious. I saw a lot of red and whites there, but I think we're on a string of yellow and blacks now. I have seen both. Okay. Let's see. I think somebody just changed their mind. I think somebody is looking it up, maybe, or maybe they've thought out about it a little bit more. All right, keep those coming in. But let me just tell you, typically, and it's easier in a live setting when I can see a show of hands, and we might be close to 50-50 here. I typically see about 2/3 of the audience very consistently over the years and at all ages indicate that yield signs are yellow and black. And if this were 1971, you would be 100% correct. I will tell you, in 1971, the federal government mandated that all yield signs be changed from yellow and black to red and white. Fact is, nobody was paying attention to the yield signs, and they figured if they're red and white, they may look a little bit more like stop signs, and you might actually pay attention to them. So for those that said yellow and black, you were right about 53 years ago. But since 1973, all signs had been changed, and all signs today are, in fact, red and white. And I will see pretty regularly folks that were not alive in 1973 still tell me quite emphatically that yield signs are yellow and black. They are today red and white. For those that said red and white, great. For those that said yellow and black, it's time to challenge some of our habits and routines. And just check me as you drive home tonight. Look for those yield signs. All right, that's your next parlor trick at your next happy hour or party that you go to. You'll be the life of the party. With that, we're going to jump right in the interest of time and go through our top 10 financial action items. Again, your only job today is to capture things that you've not done already or haven't done in a while. Jot those down as personal action items and make sure you do those over the next few days, weeks, or months. And the first one is real easy, probably the most important. And if you do it right, maybe has nothing to do with money quite directly. I'm going to ask you to go home tonight and have a conversation with your family unit, whatever that family unit is for you. That may be a significant other, a spouse, the kids, that whole group of family members, and talk about your goals. Make sure that you're starting this process on the same page, that everyone in that family household understands and agrees what is important in life, what the priorities are for your money and your life. What are those exciting dreams and hopes that you're dreaming about? What is that list? What is the priority? So as you list out all of those hopes and dreams, do prioritize it so we know that retirement is most important. College for the kids is next. Vacation every year is third on the list. Be nice to have a boat, but maybe that's eighth on the list. What is that list? And talk about how you've managed money and your approach to money, but without doing it in kind of a blame game approach. So it's not about who charges more on the credit cards, but have a conversation on your philosophy on using credit cards. When is it okay to borrow money? When should we not borrow money? When should we show some restraint? So have the money conversation and the goal conversation without blaming each other, without actually talking about dollars. This conversation is important for a number of reasons. You want to be on the same page with your family unit. But you also want to make sure that you have those hopes and dreams top of mind, because that's your motivation. That's the exciting part. That's going to drive your interest in all the other boring stuff we're going to talk about in numbers 2 through 10. This is not an exciting conversation, but it's an important conversation because of what we talk about here in number 1. So have all of those hopes and dreams front and center, top of mind, because that's your motivation to do all the other things we're about to talk about next. Okay, with that thought in mind, let's go to number 2. Number 2 on our list. Oh, and I forgot, we do have 3 polling questions. Here is our first one.
But here's our first polling questions. We're talking about financial goals. So when was the last time you listed all your financial goals? Within the past 12 months? Within the past 24 months? Never? Or I don't know. So once again, when was the last time you listed all your financial goals? We'll give you a few seconds here to answer that. And Dan, I know this is not financial wellness gambling, but what would you bet is the correct, the highest percentage answer you're gonna see here?
Well, we've all dreamed about certain things in life, but actually taking the time to talk about it with your spouse, write them down, prioritize them, that's an effort. I'm going to actually guess C, never. Okay. Maybe that's a pessimistic view and I'll be pleasantly surprised. And if it is C, then it's a good thing we're all here today together. That's a great question.
Exactly. I agree. I think I'm going to go B just to be a little different. We'll give folks a few seconds and see what we got here. All right, I'll give you 5 more seconds to do this. Don't let our betting influence your answers because we're really not betting. All right, let's
love a couple of the comments now that I got a chance to look at them. Somebody did ask, since they changed these yield signs to red and white, do more people in fact pay attention to them? Because that was the whole point of changing them to look like stop signs. I have not seen that study. That's a great question.
That's a good to-do item for us. So let's look at the results here.
You bet.
Wow. Good for this audience. Within the past 12 months, great. 44%. Excellent. So good stuff. Well, all right, Dan, back to you.
All right, let's jump in. Again, I say this is boring. Maybe it's not that boring. I think this is where we find the money and find the tools to do all those things that are on that list. And it really does start here. No matter what your financial goals are, where you are in your financial life, what your salary level is, financial planning always starts with the basics, which is your net worth and your cash flow. And that's what we're going to look at next. And we'll take these one at a time. So the action item here, just to jump the gun, is to, if you've not done so already or in a while, to literally develop your net worth statement and update it every year and sketch out very specifically your cash flow. So let's talk about these. The net worth statement is a simple concept. It is a listing of all of your assets, the stuff you own, how much they're worth, any details you have about them, and all of your debts, what you owe to others on credit cards, student loans, auto loans, the mortgage, and all the details, the balance, the monthly payment, the interest rate, the term of the loan, all of those details matter. The assets, when you add them up, is a dollar amount. There's a value to all the stuff you own, and there's a value to all the amounts that you owe. Your net worth is actually a single dollar amount, a number. When you take assets and subtract the debts, that is your net worth. And there's really three reasons I think this is an important exercise. One, if you list out all of your assets, you can then take that list, compare it to your list of goals, and start to assign assets to those goals. If you have a TSP plan, you have a 401k, an IRA, those are retirement assets. If you have a 529 plan, that's there for the goal of educating your kids in college. If you have a savings account, perhaps that is the designated emergency fund. If you have a mutual fund, why do you have it? Is it because your neighbors have it and you just think you're supposed to? Or is that the savings for the down payment for a house or the next vacation or the next car? Why do you have each asset, and what asset or what goal is each asset assigned to? Secondly, if one of your goals is to reduce your debts and eventually be debt-free, this exercise, the net worth, gives you a very nice organized list of your debts. So you could then work on your own or with a financial planner to build a plan to reduce those debts very systematically. You can decide to attack the one with the highest monthly payment, so you free up that cash as quick as possible. You could decide, which is the best answer financially, to attack the one with the highest interest rate, because you know you've listed those in order of interest rate, and you get rid of that high interest rate cost as quick as possible. Or you may decide to pay off the one with the lowest balance first, because that gives you a nice sense of accomplishment. You have 10 credit cards with balances, right? And it feels overwhelming. If you could get that list down to 9 or 8 or 7, it feels like you've done something. And that list of debts with all those details helps you organize your approach to reducing debt. But to me, the most important value of the net worth statement is that number and tracking that number. So I'm going to ask you to do your net worth statement every year at the same time. I do mine in January because I get all those year-end statements and all the information I need is there in the mail, and it's readily available and it's current. And I update my list of assets, all of my debts, and I look at that net worth number and I put it on a graph compared to prior years. And what I care about is that graph is going up, that my net worth number is higher than it was last year. Because if it is, it means I'm doing the right things financially. It means I'm growing my assets. It means I'm reducing my debts. It may mean I'm doing both things at the same time. I do this session for a lot of younger workers, for a lot of interns and college students. And a lot of times they do this and they find out their net worth is negative. If you're in college, you have an iPhone and a bunch of used books you couldn't sell back, and then you have a whole bunch of debt. So you're worth negative. I've had some interns come back, and when they start working full time, they call me and say, you were right, I finally did my net worth, and for the first time, I'm worth nothing. And that's the most I've ever been worth in my whole life, because it used to be negative. It's more than it was last year. And maybe next year I'm worth $1,000 or $10,000 or $100,000. I want to see that number going up every year, because that's your best indication that you're doing the right things financially. Similarly, So you'll get the materials for this session later. There's an appendix that gives you a sample net worth that you can use. You can do this in Excel or find tools online to do this as well. But make sure you do your net worth and you update it every year. In a similar vein, let's make sure we understand where our money goes. Your cash flow statement is equally simple. It's a listing of all of your income sources. It may just be your salary and where it all goes, all of your expenses. And if I gave you a few minutes right now to do that, the income number is easy. In fact, you could probably do your net worth, your assets, and your debts pretty well within a few minutes. But it's that expense number on the cash flow statement that most of us will struggle with. Most of us have no idea where those nickels and dimes and 20s go over the course of the days and weeks and months. And there's where the opportunity is to fund all of those goals on your list. So if you walk away with one action item, I hope it might be this one. I'm going to ask you to do what I call the notebook method. For the next 30 days, jot down every expense that you have, every dime that you spend, from the vending machine to the mortgage check and everything in between. And as you do that, put them in Excel or jot them down on a piece of paper, organize them, categorize them. And after 30 days, and by the way, make sure you capture some of the periodic things, like if you pay your auto insurance every 6 months, or gifts you might buy, especially during the holidays or periodically for birthdays, pull those in as well. And for the first time in your life, you'll see where all of your nickels and dimes and 20s actually go quite accurately, because they all go somewhere. Every dime that you make goes somewhere. You either spend it or you save it. And we need to know where those monies go. And when you do this, you're going to see three things. You'll see some expenses that you can just eliminate right off the top. You know, I can't believe I spend $400 a year on that. I just do it automatically. It's one of those subscriptions I forgot about. It's just a habit that I can eliminate because I don't need it. It doesn't make me happy today. So that's gone. You won't have many of those, but you'll see some. You'll also find some expenses that you just have to have. The mortgage or rent, the utilities, the food, clothing, within reason. There's not much you can do about those. That's okay. But most of what you'll find in the notebook or in Excel are the discretionary numbers, the stuff that makes life worth living, but you don't need it to stay alive. And I will never tell anyone to get rid of those expenses today just so you can save for some future goal. We have to be happy today while we're still saving for all those very exciting future hopes and dreams. We're trying to find a balance, and the balance is in those discretionary expenses. You may need to rethink or challenge those expenses. Are there some you can eliminate? Are there others that you can acquire differently? Can you wash the car at home instead of paying $20 a week at the car wash? We all got used to exercising at home during COVID because the gyms were closed. How did that go? If you're okay exercising at home, you can skip the $600 gym membership and still get what you need. You can still exercise every day, but you save some money. If you love going to get your favorite coffee every morning, what's that number? And is that number okay? Or can you go every other day and still be happy today and save some of that money? These are very personal decisions, but if you do the notebook method and know where those nickels and dimes and 20s go, you can then make some very personal decisions on what to keep, what to get rid of, and what to acquire differently. Make sure you're happy today, but find the dollars to do everything else we're about to talk about for all those future goals. And that's as preachy as I'll get today, but cash flow is what drives everything else in financial planning, so we spend some time on it. And that's number 2 in this process. And we do give you a sample cash flow statement in Appendix D. You'll see that, use Excel, use whatever makes sense for you. Now, as you list out those very exciting goals on step 1, like vacations and retirement and education for the kids, do make sure that establishing an emergency fund is on that list. It's not exciting, it's not a hope or dream, but it should be really first on the list, because an emergency fund does something very important. It helps us make sure that an unexpected event, which we're all going to have in our life, does not become a financial catastrophe. There will be unexpected events. A spouse loses their job, an unexpected and uncovered medical bill, a major repair on the automobile that we couldn't anticipate. By the way, we should anticipate that your car needs new tires and new brakes every 80,000 miles or so. That's not an emergency. That's called maintenance. But there are things that happen that we can't account for or expect or plan for. We need to make sure we have the money set aside to cover our necessary expenses if that unexpected event happens. So the emergency fund should be 3, 4, maybe 6 months of whatever we see in that notebook that are the necessary expenses, whatever we would have to pay no matter what, food, clothing, shelter, things like that. What is that number times ideally 6 months? That's your target goal for that emergency fund. Find a safe place to set money aside, like a savings account, and over time build up that account to that targeted savings or emergency fund amount, and then don't touch it. Let it sit there unless you have that unexpected event. And then when that happens, your spouse loses their job for a couple of months until they find a new one. You still have to pay those bills that were covered by their income. You pull money out of the emergency fund, you pay the bill, life is good, you move on, you replenish that account over time, versus within a couple of months, you're faced with foreclosure, losing your house, not being able to pay your bills. That unexpected event became a catastrophe. Make sure emergency fund is high on that list of targeted goals. Now, in step 2, we looked at where you are financially, your cash flow, your net worth. It's just as important to know how others view you financially, and they do that through what's called your credit score and your credit report. And if you have any interest in getting a job or insurance or an apartment or taking out a loan or a credit card, you need to understand what your credit report and your credit score look like, because those that you're asking for a loan or an apartment or insurance are going to first look at your credit report and credit score and make decisions about you and how responsible you are financially before they make a decision. And it may mean that you have to pay more for the loan or you don't get the insurance based on what your credit report and your credit score say. So what are the action items here? Well, it starts with the credit report. And that's not a very exciting document to read, but it's very important to look at it and make sure that it's accurate, that the information in there is yours. It is very simply a look at historically how you have managed debt, what loans and credit cards you've had and currently have, how much do you owe and how much did you owe? Do you pay it on time? Do you pay it all on time? Did you have any late payments? And it's a summary of all of that activity. And then from that information, there's a very super secret formula. Actually, there's multiple formulas because the different agencies have their own versions. They calculate a score based on how you've done with all of those things. So as you look at the credit report, is it accurate? Are there things you don't recognize? Is there identity theft? Is there fraud? Are there simply errors in your credit report that could affect that score in a negative way? Good news is, it used to be you had to pay for this credit report. We can now get it for free. Until recently, we could get it for free once a year from Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. Now we can get it every week for free at the website annualcreditreport.com, and you see that on the screen there. If you go to that website and answer a couple of security questions every week, you can get a free copy of your credit report from all 3 agencies and look at it and make sure everything's accurate. You may not have to do it every week, but you can if you want to. You also want to make sure you understand what that score looks like. The credit report does not come with the score, but there are many ways to see that for free these days. In fact, it's hard not to see it. Any credit card website that you use where you have an account, bank website that you use where you have an account, or these other credits-focused websites or apps that you may have seen advertised. If you're willing to deal with a few ads, you can see a free version of your score anytime you want to, again, at no cost to you. And what I ask as an action item is that you use the consistent source. So if you use your bank's website because they give you access to your credit report and score, then always look at your score at that same website. Because there are multiple versions and formulas, the score may be different if you look at it on this website versus that website. So look at it at a consistent place every month. Because the score, while it may be different, the number may be different, it usually goes up and down for the same general reasons. And you see those reasons on the pie chart on the slide. Most of the credit reporting formulas look at whether you've taken out a lot of new credit recently, which could be an indication you're having trouble paying for your life without using credit cards, the types of credit that you use. Do you have a good mix of credit, or do you have 10 credit cards? They'd like to see maybe an auto loan, a mortgage, a couple of credit cards, a nice reasonable mix. How long have you had credit? And how long have those lines of credit or credit cards been open? A little tip. If you have a credit card that you've had for 20 years and you had one that you opened last week and you decide, I don't need both of them, I'm going to close one of them, close the one you opened last week. Because when you close that older one, that 20 years of credit history goes away. It stays on your report for 7 years, but it will drop off. And you lose the benefit of that long credit history. And that's one of the factors in the formula. But 65% of your score, this is the FICO score, by the way, this is one version. 65% of that score looks at two things. How much do you owe and how do you pay it back? Do you pay it back on time? So if you do nothing else, make sure at a minimum, you make all of your loan payments on time, even if it is just the minimum monthly payment, because that's all you can afford. Make that minimum payment on time on your credit cards. That alone is 35% of your score. And then try to keep those credit card balances as low as possible, zero if you can. You still get credit for having the credit card and using it. You do not have to carry a balance to help your credit score. In fact, it hurts your score if you carry that balance. It helps your score if you pay it off or pay it down as much as you can each and every month. Okay, 2 action items. Look at your credit report. You can do that on annualcreditreport.com or any of those bank websites that you might use, and find a consistent place to see your credit score on a very regular basis. Okay, we're halfway there. Right. We have another polling question. Doug, on to you.
Sure. Here's poll number 2. How often do you and your spouse or partner, if applicable, review your spending activity? Are you reviewing it monthly, quarterly, semi-annually, annually, never, not sure? Once again, this is a judgment-free zone. We just want to kind of get a feel for where we are in this space. So once again, it's how often are you reviewing your spending activity, monthly, quarterly, semi-annually, annually, never, or not sure? Dan, while they're answering this, you're talking about some of these credit rating services. You know, I get from my credit card, I get one, you know, I think every month. But there are differences, because I'll see some from my other ones. What could be some of the differences in ratings? It's never like a huge swing, but they are different. I'm just curious.
Yeah, so I'll say 2 things. The score itself will be different, sometimes dramatically different by 50 points or more. And it really just means those 5 factors on that chart, they weight them differently. Some put much more weight on credit cards versus other types of loans. Others just look at the total balances you owe, regardless of the type of debt. The other thing I'll say, though, is most of those scores will go up and down for the same reason. So it's a very good point. Let me make it here. As you watch that score over time, and you're looking at the same version of your score at the same site every month, and you see that it goes up or down, think back 30 to 60 days. What did you do differently? Did you pay off a credit card? Did you open a card? Did you close a card? Did you shop for a car, including a car loan? Did you charge up the card more than you normally would and hadn't paid it off yet? And you'll very quickly start to learn what financial activities you do, what impact they have on that credit score. Again, regardless of the version of the score that you're looking at, they will probably go up and down for very similar reasons based on very similar activities, even if the score number is a bit different, because it's the TransUnion score, what they call it the Vantage score, versus the FICO score or one of the others that are out there. Hope that helps.
Yeah, it definitely does. Thank you. Let's see what our results say. So about half,
almost everyone. Yeah, more than half. That's great. And hopefully that means you've done the 30-day challenge of jotting down your expenses and you categorize them. It's not just, hey, I looked at the credit card. Did you spend more money again? So that's not reviewing your spending activity, but you might think of it as that more objective analysis. Let's look at where the money's going, and so we can make some good informed decisions. And hopefully you're all doing that. And I'd love to see that many of you are at monthly. So that's great. Okay, in the interest of time, we're about halfway there. We are on number 5, so we're about halfway through. Number 5, I'm going to guess, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that all of you, if you do step 1, list out your goals, that on that list of goals is plan for retirement. It is a goal that I think all of us share. I've met one person in my 30 years in these workshops that said, yeah, the retirement's not for me. Everyone else says, yeah, it's pretty high on the list. And there's a 6-step process that we use for anybody that calls us and wants to talk about planning for a goal. It's the same process regardless of the goal, but you can apply this certainly to retirement. You can apply it to a new car. If you call and say, I want to buy a new car, can you help me plan? I'm going to go through the 6 steps. Let's define that goal. Okay, it's a Honda Accord, a 4-door. Step 2, what do you need? Well, that's the sticker on the window. It says it's $27,000. Step 3, then the question is, well, how much do you have? Well, I only have $24,000. Step 4, is there a gap? Yeah, there's a gap of $3,000. So what are you going to do in step 5? Well, I could save a couple $100 a month and try to shrink that gap. I could talk the dealer down a bit if I can negotiate well, or I could buy a Civic instead of an Accord. Step 6, whatever you said you were going to do, make sure you do it. The same 6-step process works for retirement. It's just a little bit more involved, as you might guess. But step 2, what do you need? That's looking at where your money is going today and how those expenses might change in retirement. Step 3, what do you have? That's your TSP, your state retirement plan or pension, your 401k, your IRAs. And then is there a gap? So there's online retirement planning software you can use to plug in how much you might need to spend for your lifestyle in retirement and how much you have today. And then if there's a gap, you do some planning. But it all starts with step 1. And I'm going to talk about that next. So step 1 is define your goal. For the car, that was easy. I want that red car over there. For retirement, it's what I call your picture of retirement. And I want all of you to make this an action item to develop in your mind with your family what I'll call your picture of retirement. What does retirement look like for you? 1, it's a fun exercise to do. It's great to think about sitting on a beach, playing golf, living in a different house, whatever picture of retirement means to you. But by the way, it's also important that you and your spouse or significant other share the same picture before you get to that retirement age. And I've done a lot of these workshops where I ask people to share their picture of retirement. And sometimes spouses are invited to these workshops and they both share their picture of retirement and they could not be more different. And they're like 50 years old and they have about 10 years to figure out how to mesh their pictures of retirement together. So it's fun to do. It's important that you match or that you get on the same page, but it also drives the price tag for retirement. So if we go back to that second step, what will you need for retirement? That's really the price tag for retirement. That is really driven by this picture of retirement. Imagine, person number 1, they're going to sell their house, buy a bigger house, and then they're going to leave that house 6 months out of the year and travel the world. That's a very expensive picture of retirement. The second person is going to stay in their now paid for house and get rid of that mortgage cost. And they're just going to sit on the front porch and watch the world go by. Sounds nice. Sounds very relaxing. They're probably going to read a lot of books, but it's a very different price tag for retirement. So your picture of retirement is fun to think about, but it also does drive the price tag there in step 2. And we do have a question that came in. It's really about step 3. I've heard that Social Security may run out of money by the time I retire. Is this true? And what should I do to prepare? Well, let's talk about that briefly. There may be some folks from the Social Security Administration here. I will give my own personal view. I think Social Security is a very important system in this country. It is ingrained in our process and in retirement and something that too many Americans count on for it to go away. Current projections say that after, I think right now it's 2037, it may have changed, that there won't be enough money coming in. Remember how it works. We all pay into this system through Social Security, through the FICA tax and our payroll, and that money is paying for the benefits for those that are already retired. Eventually they will die, we will retire, and new people will work and pay into the system that funds our checks for Social Security. Very simple look at how that works. The money that they expect to come in the year 2037-ish will only be enough to pay a portion, I think it's around 75%, for those that know the numbers, forgive me, of the benefits that should be paid out, which means we got to find a new way to get more dollars in. They could raise the tax number or the amount of taxes that we pay into the system. They could change the rules on how much we pay. They could change the benefits that are paid out. They could say you don't get your full benefit until you're a little bit older. There are lots of ways to adjust the system to make sure that full benefits can be paid. And they have done that before. And I expect they'll do that again so that the right amount of money is going in to pay out the benefits that are promised. If you think Social Security won't be fully there for you, then when you do your retirement plan in step 3, you don't include your full Social Security projection in that retirement plan, in that projection. And what it means for you is that you probably need to save more on your own, increase your monthly savings to make up for that gap. And if it turns out you've done that and you saved more and you have more in your own buckets for retirement and Social Security is still there, well, it turns out that's a bonus. You were very conservative in your approach. You saved more because you're worried about that system. Turns out it fixed itself and there is money available from Social Security and you have more available for retirement. And if Social Security is not available to you, then you did the right thing by saving more ahead of time. My personal view is it will be there. I'm counting on it. I'm also saving part of my salary on my own for my retirement because all of us need to. Retirement is usually funded in step 3 through a combination of our employer benefits, government or company benefits, Social Security, as long as you feel it will be there, and I do, and personal savings. And I've yet to see a scenario where company benefits or government benefits as the employer and Social Security alone are enough to fund most pictures of retirement. Most or all of us have to save some of our own money for our own retirement through things like 401ks and IRAs and the TSP and other savings accounts for retirement. And again, if you don't think Social Security will be there, the amount you save on your own probably just needs to go up even more. Okay, let's jump to number 6. No surprise here, I don't think. Maybe I'll shock a few of you. The earlier you save and the more you save, the more you will have when you reach your goal. Again, it shouldn't be a surprise, but let's just make sure we say that and make sure one of your action items is to save as early as possible for every goal that you have in life, including retirement. But we can put some numbers to this and illustrate this very easily. And I show this in part because I'm trying to give you action items that you can do easily, even now on your phone or tonight when you get home. And this is one of those. So if you know how much you have in, let's say, your retirement accounts already, or the education account for the kids, the 529, and you know how much you're saving already today every month, you can do some very quick financial planning with a present value calculator on your phone by just downloading, searching for that in the App Store, and downloading a present value calculator and plugging in a couple of numbers. And here's an example. So let's go very, very optimistic and talk about somebody that's just starting their career, and they're going to save in an IRA, an individual retirement account for their retirement, and they realize how important it is to save early. So they got 35-year career ahead of them, and they think if they invest their money that they save, they can earn 7% a year. That's a good average. They may get more or less in some years. They're just starting, so there's no money in this account, but they're going to put in $7,000 a year from day one throughout their career for retirement, let's say in an IRA. Maybe it's a Roth IRA. If they do that, and if I put these 4 numbers in a present value calculator, it will give me the future value of saving the $7,000 a year for 35 years at 7% a year interest. And it will tell me that I'll walk into retirement with $1 million in my Roth IRA, which is very exciting to think about, very cool to see. If I had 35 years left, that's a very motivating slide. It also might, unfortunately, tell me that, hey, that's a lot of money. Maybe I don't have to start this early. Maybe I can just have fun for 5 years. And I'll start this retirement planning thing 5 years from now when I have 30 years left. So for 30 years, I'll save $7,000 a year. I'll get 7% a year in interest and gains. If I do that, I just waited 5 years at the beginning. That's not that big a deal. I lose almost a third of that balance when I retire by just waiting those 5 years at the beginning. The point of this slide is not you should have waited, you should have started this when you were 21 years old. The point is, no matter what your age is today, and no matter how much you've saved already today, the sooner you start saving and the more you start saving now, the more you'll have for those future goals, whether it's college for the kids, retirement for you, or any other goal. And you can run those numbers very easily with a future value calculator on your phone. And then, by the way, you can then turn it around and use that same calculator to see what this might mean for your retirement. Retirement's a weird goal. It's not just buying a car, it's spending for 30 years in retirement, because you might live for 3 decades, by the way. So you can use this same calculator and say, okay, if I really am going to have $1 million when I reach retirement at age 60 or 65, and I'm going to live for 30 years in retirement, $1 million seems like a lot of money, but I don't know. I don't know what that really means on a monthly or annual basis. How much could I spend? Because that's how my mind works. How much could I spend every day? I'm used to getting a paycheck. Let's use that same calculator to see what $1 million might mean to you in retirement. So I'm gonna live for, let's say I'm optimistic, I'm gonna live for 35 years in retirement, and I'm gonna invest a little more conservatively. I'll get 5% a year in growth. And I'm starting with that $1 million in my Roth IRA. How much could I take out every year so that there's nothing left when I die exactly 35 years later? Well, the calculator tells me I can spend about $60,000 a year. That's what $1 million means to me if I'm going to live for 35 years in retirement and make 5% a year in growth on that account. If you think you're going to live 25 years but invest differently, you can use the calculator to run your numbers. We can do very easy financial planning on our phone with a calculator like this. And that's step 6. Save early, save as much as you can, and run the numbers. Okay, I think we might have one more. I forget if it's 3 or 4, but we are at our next polling question of the day. Doug, on to you.
We are. This is the final polling question of the day. So how much time do you devote on average each month to building your financial knowledge? So how much time do you devote on each month to build your financial knowledge? Less than 1 hour. B, 1 to 2 hours a month. C, 3 to 4 hours a month. D, more than 4 hours a month. So, as you run through this, we will talk. Dan, you mentioned simple calculators. Are there apps? You mentioned an app or some of the calculations you were just doing. Do you have any recommended apps we could be using?
Yeah, there's a few that I use that I've actually sometimes they go away, apps disappear, which is sometimes unfortunate. You find a good one. I'm looking at one on my phone that's just called Loan Calc P, and I think it was PV for present value. It's a little icon as a house. It has a little car inside it. I've got 5 or 6 on my phone. One is TVM Calc. If you just look up present value calculator or future value calculator, you'll find several options. They're all pretty simple, and they all kind of do the same thing. Certainly don't pay for one, find a free one. And it'll look like what I just showed, those variables. How much are you saving every month or every period, whatever that period is, how much do you already have saved, what's the interest rate, and if what's the current balance, and then you can solve for the future balance. So if you know 4 of the variables, you can solve for the other one. So you could use it to say, look, I have $2 today. I want $1 million in 30 years. How much do I have to save every month? It'll do that as well. So it really can do some very simple financial planning. Yeah.
It's just a great visual. I mean, it really shows you the value of starting early. So I love it. All right, let's check out our results.
Great.
Well, we have a very fiscally responsible audience.
That's right. And maybe in the attendee chat, if you just want to share with others, where you get that knowledge, I think is important as well. I've seen some very valuable things on TikTok, and I've seen some terrifying things on TikTok that should never be under the umbrella of financial knowledge. Or is it that you're reading articles on more mainstream news outlets? So if you wanted to share with other attendees where you get your financial knowledge and where you read and find things like this, that might be helpful as well, because there's a lot of options out there, some better than others. Number 7, as we go through our list, taking control of your taxes. Obviously very important. So let's look at just a few tips and tricks here. One, understand as you look at your mix of employee benefits, and depending on where you work and what government agency you work for, you may have different options. Your retirement savings may be pre-tax. The amount you pay towards your medical premiums are probably pre-tax. You may have some commuter parking expense programs that are pre-tax dollars. And all that means is if you make $50,000 a year in salary, and you put $10,000 away towards these types of expenses or savings vehicles, and they are pre-tax, that means they come out of your paycheck before taxes are calculated, which means at the end of the year, when you fill out your tax return, you will show the IRS not $50,000 of salary, $40,000 of salary. Even though you made 50, You use 10 of it to pay for things that are called pre-tax, and then you don't have to show the IRS that portion of your income. You don't pay tax on that portion of your income this year because you used programs that are specially designated as pre-tax savings vehicles. If you get a big refund or you have a big check due, that's an opportunity to revisit your tax situation. If you get a big refund, it feels great. We all know that. And you may use that to fund retirement or to fund vacations or to pay off some debt. Understand that that does mean every paycheck last year, you had too much withheld. You sent it off to the IRS or other government agencies. They held it for the year without giving you any interest. And then when you file your tax return and you settle up with them, they say, oh, yeah, you paid us too much during the year. Here's the rest back. That's the refund. That feels great. But you have an opportunity to reduce your withholding, send less to the IRS, less to your state government, and get more in each paycheck so that when you fill out your tax return, it comes out closer to zero, meaning here's how much I owe you. And oh, yeah, I already paid about that much during the year. So you get that benefit in each paycheck instead of one lump sum as a refund at the end of the year. Your choice, as long as you understand what that refund means. It means more than necessary came out of each paycheck. Your paychecks were smaller, and it's kind of a forced savings. You're giving it to the government. They hold it. They give it back to you at the end. As a financial planner, I would say that it's better to owe a little bit with your tax return because that means you had as little as possible coming out of each paycheck. You maximize the value of your paycheck every 2 weeks. And then at the end of the year, you pay a little bit extra to finish off the year. You settle up and say, okay, I owe you $100, here it is, but I certainly didn't give you more than I needed to. There are benefits to both sides as long as you understand the scenario and you fill out your W-4 or update your W-4 to make sure you get the result that you want with that tax return at the end of each year. Okay, 3 more to go. Number 8, let's talk a little bit about your asset allocation. And I want to make a couple of points here. So asset allocation, very simply, is that pie. How you divide up your money as you invest it for various goals. How much of your money in your TSP, your 401k, your IRA, your 529 is invested in cash, bonds, and stocks, and more specifically, different types of bonds, different types of stocks, small or large stocks, government bonds, international stocks, U.S. companies. What does that pie or mix of investments look like? And the real core question behind that is, as you answer that question, are you a conservative investor, an aggressive investor, or a more moderate investor? And most of us think of ourselves as one of those 3. I will tell you that the better way to think about that is you are probably all 3 at the exact same time. The reason is, and this is important to understand, we don't have one asset allocation because we don't have one pot of money that we're investing. We are probably very conservatively invested and very aggressively invested at this exact moment in time because I have money in my checking account that is set aside for vacation next month. It is invested in cash. It is invested in my checking account because the money has to be there next month to pay for the vacation. I can't have the market going up and down affecting my vacation. So my pie looks like this white circle here. It is all in cash. It's not going anywhere. It's very conservatively invested, if you want to think of it that way, earning nothing, but it will be there in a month for a vacation. My emergency fund, probably invested all in cash because it has to be there. It's not earning very much, if anything, but I know it's safe and secure. At that exact moment, I have a retirement account, a 401k at EY, and I'm 50 today, and I'm gonna retire at 60, and I'm gonna live till I'm 90. I have 40-year money in that 401k. That pie looks very much like the long-term one. A lot of money in stocks, large and small stocks, government bonds, international companies, a little bit of anything in cash. I can be more aggressive because I've got 40 years to ride out the ups and downs of the stock market. So I'm very aggressive with my retirement money and very conservative with my vacation money. So what does my asset allocation look like? It depends on the goal and the time horizon that I have for that goal. Let me illustrate that very briefly here and show you what that might look like. This is the prettiest slide you're going to see, probably my favorite. This shows you how 5 different asset classes performed relative to each other over the last 20 years. what you'll notice quickly is that none of them were the clear winners or losers. They're all over the board. But in the early 2000s, in the dark purple international stocks, they had a nice run. So maybe you said, forget this asset allocation thing. I'm going to go all in. I'm a gambler. I'm going to go all international stocks. And if you did that, while you had a nice 2006 and 2007, well, it dropped in 2008, not just a little bit. It dropped all the way to the bottom. You lost 43%. And you did what any good human would do. You panicked and you sold. You got out just in time to miss that rebound back up to the top. By the way, here's what that would have felt like over the full 20 years. Here's what that 20-year ride would have been in international stocks. If instead you understood that that mix, that pie is important, because every piece of that pie is going to fluctuate. Some are at the top and others are at the bottom. And if you have money in both, you're kind of hanging out in the middle. And if this one rebounds and this one drops, you're hanging out there in the middle yet again. That's what the gray box represents. The gray boxes say, look, what if we put our money in all 5 of these categories? We did a nice colorful mix for our asset allocation. Here's what that would have felt like. If our asset allocation was 20% in all 5 categories, look what that ride would have felt like. It's much more comfortable, by the way. It's a smoother ride. So I'm going to sleep better at night in the gray boxes than the dark purple boxes. But more importantly, had I invested $100 in each of these after 20 years, I would have made money in both. But I made more money in the gray boxes. So I did better as a return on my investment. And it was a much more comfortable ride along the way when I have a nice mix of colors or asset classes instead of going all in on any one. So how much time do I have to write out the ups and downs? How comfortable am I with the ups and downs? And what rate of return do I need to earn? All of that drives my asset allocation. Okay, 2 left in 4 minutes. Number 9, let's review our life insurance needs periodically. And I'm going to suggest that you do that by doing, by asking the question. Sorry, I have a question that come in, and I'll get to that in just a minute. I'm going to suggest as an action item a very odd conversation for you and your significant other, that may be a spouse, when you go home tonight. And I kind of say this tongue in cheek. It's a little bit of a joke, but it is the conversation I want you to have. Go home tonight, sit across the table from your spouse, look at them very, very concerningly in the eye and say, hon, I love you very much, and I have a couple of questions to ask. If I die, let's talk about what you would have available financially to live your life and to move on. And more importantly, if you die, what would I have available financially? Because I'm very concerned. I want to make sure that you can answer both of those questions on both sides of the table. And it's funny to say it that way, and we laugh about it, but this is the life insurance conversation. This is a very important financial conversation that is not that difficult to have. And I'll give you an example. I'll take my wife and I. My wife's name is Sherry. She's been a stay-at-home mom since she was 29, and she's 48 today. She's very good at it, but as you know, and some of you know directly, a stay-at-home parent does not have a paycheck of their own. They don't have a 401k or a TSP. They don't have a pension. There's a lot of things that a stay-at-home parent financially does not have themselves. So if we have this conversation, I've been at EY for 30 years. I have those things. So if I die, what would she have available financially? She would have whatever's in my 401k today. We thought that was going to keep growing. It stops because I'm not putting money into it. I died. We have whatever's in my pension today, which is no longer growing. The paycheck stopped. So she has some things that are available to her, as well as a very big life insurance payout. We made sure that the life insurance on my life is a big number, because when we answer the question, if I die, what does she have? Some of those things aren't there, but life insurance is. So the main answer to that question, if I die, what does she have? It's life insurance, plus a few other things that would come to her, like the 401k and the pension. If she dies, what do I have? I still have my job at EY with a pension and a paycheck and a 401k that keep growing. So I have a very different answer financially. If she dies, what do I have available? And oh, by the way, there is still life insurance on her life that would come to me, but it's a different number, because I don't need that number to be as high, because I have other things available to me. We have answered the question on both sides of the kitchen table with different answers and different life insurance amounts as part of that answer. But life insurance is part of the answer on both sides of the table. We talked about WAEPA early on today, and they offer to federal civilian employees group term life insurance that's available to you. So look at that, but determine the first answer, how much do I need? It's this conversation. What else is available? Where are the gaps? And how can we fill those gaps with life insurance needs? And understand up front that that number may be very different on each side of the table. Okay, the last item today, I hate ending with death. We already talked life insurance. To make sure that all of the right documents and instructions are in place when you die, because we know what's going to happen. We don't know when it's going to happen. It's probably going to be unexpected. So make sure you have all of these documents in place, or most of them. And here's an easy way to think about it and do the planning, and a way to think about this going forward. I want you to find an estate planning attorney, one that just does estate planning and documents like this. And I want you to think ahead of time and go to them and tell them the story of your death. When I die, here's who I want to get my stuff. Here's when I want them to get it. Here's how I want them to get it. Here's who I want to represent me as my executor. Here's who I want to take care of the kids as the guardians, if they're under age 18 or their special needs. And by the way, if I'm in a coma, I'm not dead yet, but I'm in a car accident, here's who I want to manage my finances for me, because I can't. Here's who I'd like to make healthcare decisions for me, because I can't. If you can tell that story to your estate planning attorney, they will use these documents to make sure that story happens. They will make sure you have powers of attorney so that somebody else has the legal authority to manage your finances, to make healthcare decisions for you if you're in a coma. If you die, they'll make sure those documents indicate and authorize the right executor to represent you, to get your stuff. They'll make sure that the beneficiary forms of your retirement accounts are set up correctly so the right person receives the assets that you want them to go to. When you started your career and you signed up for life insurance and your retirement account and you were single, you probably put your mom as the beneficiary. Who else are you going to put? But then you got married, and then you got divorced, and you got married again. And you die unexpectedly. And then your spouse finds out that your retirement account is going to your ex-spouse, or your ex-spouse and your current spouse find out that the retirement is going to your mom, the mother-in-law, or the ex-mother-in-law. Look at your beneficiary forms, look at those designations, and make sure they're accurate. Most of these documents you can change anytime you want until you die, to tell that story and to make sure that story of your death or your incapacitation happens correctly. And you can change that story anytime you like. I told you the most important part of today's session is when you leave here that you should walk out of here with some action items. Make sure you have that. Make sure you do at least 3 of those action items as quick as you can to build that momentum and start this process. In the materials we'll provide you, we included a Know Your Numbers worksheet that asks you a whole series, 3 pages worth of numbers you should know financially. Take the quiz, see what numbers you know. If you don't know those, look them up, find those numbers. It helps you with this financial planning process. Find those next steps that you can do easily, do them, talk to your spouse and your family units, and build the momentum to make your financial future as strong as it possibly can be and as strong as your financial today is. With that, I appreciate your time today. I'll look at some of these questions, but we are out of time. So Doug, I'm going to turn it back to you.
Wonderful. Dan, thank you so much. And on behalf of our audience, really appreciate you, WAEPA and EY, putting this session on today. I mean, if you're going to download one set of slides today, this is the one you want to go to the resource tab and do. There's just great information in there. So Dan, thank you once again. Much appreciated. Thank you to our alliance. Thank you to our alliance partners, WAEPA, specifically on this and all our other ones. Their support allows us to be a free service for all of you today. Before I let you go, we have a couple things we need to talk about. What's next? Learn more. Head back to the lobby. You can download more resources and check out what other sessions are coming. Remember, the more active you are in the environment and going to the booths and the different areas, you move up the leaderboard and we'll win an Amazon gift card for the top folks. The exhibit hall is where all of our alliance partners are. Please visit them. Thank them for putting today's session on. Meet our friends in the networking lounge to talk with one another. We have over 2,000 people registered for today's event. What to do next? Let's see here. Well, I'm going to find out what we got to do next. All right, head back to the conference hall. We have our closing keynotes from 3 to 4 p.m., 2 really good sessions. On behalf of NextGen, GovLoop, WAEPA, and EY, I want to thank you for attending today's session. We appreciate the work you do every day. Your work matters. We appreciate you taking time out to spend a day for professional development. And as a reminder, all this information will be available on demand. So if there's any sessions you missed, you'll be receiving an email later this week with that information. With that, I want to thank you again. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, WAEPA. Thank you, EY. And we'll see you in the next session. Thanks, everybody.